Hello, this is my Module 10 Reflections video. It's Halloween and I'm being pressured to leave and take kids trick-or-treating, and I have trick-or-treaters coming to the door, so hopefully I don't get interrupted for the 10th time. The first question says, what experiences have you had with interactive technologies as a student or teacher? I have to say basically none. I kind of remember data projectors, but I guess it really must never really stuck in my mind what we were using there until I read through and studied out data projectors. And then I realized that that's what we were using. For the last 2 weeks I've had a class for suicide prevention. I work for police, so we have to have these classes, and I realized that that's what a data projector is. But I had never used, I've never seen smartboards used or used them myself. Never used clickers. And apps, I've used apps, but not these kind of apps before. So it was kind of interesting. I learned quite a bit. Which rendition of the interactive whiteboard and remote would you choose, and why? I chose the Promethean. I thought the Smart Company brand was pretty good, but I leaned toward Promethean because, number one, it was award-winning. The boards appeared to be like freestanding units that could be wheeled about, and I thought that was a good thing, and they could be, or it could be mounted on the wall. And it wasn't that these, videos and websites that we looked at were probably not completely exhaustive in showing all the details, so maybe the other boards did that, but I saw that this one didn't. I didn't see that the other ones did, so. Also, that it has built-in tools and templates in the Promethean brand, like rulers and grid guides, and I thought that those would be really important in doing math and that kind of thing, and I really liked that it was all in there. Also, they used what appeared to me to be some kind of graphic organizer tool where they would just pop this image onto the board, and it was just laid out like a graphic image, and then they could start talking about whatever it was that the topic was, and I thought that was really neat. And again, I don't know that this was exhaustive with the other smart boards, so maybe they offered that as well, but I really thought that that would be something that as a teacher I would use often. And then the Promethean boards talked about, it was showing this teacher, this was the one I found on YouTube to kind of follow up with what I was learning about, but it was showing images like photographs on the smartboard, and that she was able to control the size of them just like you would on a tablet or a smartphone. So I thought that was really neat, because it was like you can see something really big and then you can make that smaller and have it just up in the corner of the board and move on to another topic that you don't really want that image to go away, but you didn't really want it to take up the whole board. And I thought that was really neat. And then because they use gestures much like a tablet or a smartphone, that you're already familiar with that and you didn't have to learn new skills to use it. I liked that when students gave their individual responses, that you had the option of showing those responses to the class and sharing that information, and then that the boards themselves had a save feature so that you could actually keep a copy of a lesson and what was put on the board and what was covered, in case you wanted to see it later, or say your administrators wanted to see it. And then again with the clickers, I did prefer the Promethean clicker. The response card clicker didn't seem to have very many buttons on it, and the iClicker had even fewer buttons on it. And so I was just like, I felt like the Promethean clicker looked more like a cell phone, and again, if you have that knowledge already, you don't have to relearn something in order to use it. And I felt that you would be able to do more things like essay questions and actually, put down your actual thoughts rather than have 4 or 5 or 6 buttons on a clicker. The more buttons that looked more like a QWERTY keyboard would be helpful. Excuse me. And then it asked, if you could choose just one for your future classroom, which would you choose? I'm sorry, this was about the interactive app and which one I liked most. And I have to say, I went ahead and opened all 3 of them in different tabs, and they all start loading. And then I kind of, I do a quick look at them, at each one. I'm like, I look at this, I look at this, I look at this, and then I, decide, well, now which one of those really caught my eye? And the one that really caught my eye the most was the Pear Deck. And the reason it caught my eye is because I am a busy person. I work full-time, I go to school full-time, I have a kid that I help take care of. I don't have a lot of time in my life, and whatever can help me save time, that's what I love. And I went to Pear Deck and it said sign in with Google, and I'm like, absolutely, I'll sign in with Google. And it was like, can we access Google Drive? I'm like, perfect, because now I know that that's going to be saved. I'm never going to lose it. I'm never going to have to worry about emailing it to myself, or do I have to put this on a thumb drive and transport it? I've got it right there. And perhaps the other ones did do that, but I didn't have to ask it to do it. It just did it for me, and that makes my life easy. And the other ones were really cool, and I can get in them and I can use them, and they're free, and I wouldn't discount using them in the future. But I like things that are so easy, I guess, that are so well, I know how Google Drive works, and I know how Google products work, so I'm all about that. Sorry, I'm wearing weird things because it's Halloween. So I'm like, oh, that's perfect, because now I know how to do it, and I don't have to relearn a new software to figure it out. There was some things in Pear Deck that I didn't know how to do, of course, but this part I knew, and that makes me at ease. I'm like, well, if they like Google Drive, then perhaps all their other functions are really self-explanatory things I can pick up pretty easily. And then question 3 says, after reading the article, what were your thoughts? What did you learn? And do you think that you'd have similar results to the article if you use clickers in your future classroom? So, reading the article really opened my eyes because I think I'm probably one of the oldest students in this class. So, I mean, I was very old school. We used pen, paper, textbooks. And I think the new technologies in the classroom are fantastic. Like, I think this is just amazing to me. I love seeing new technologies used in this kind of way. To see things like flipping the classroom, and to see interactive boards, and I've even studied out using gaming in the classroom, and those kinds of things. That just really excites me, because I feel like I thought school was so boring, and I wish that somebody had grabbed my attention and tried to get me to get excited about it and to motivate me. And that's what I want to do for my students. I want them to be motivated. I want them to think this is awfully, exciting to come to school and to learn this stuff. So I'm glad that it's getting measured. I'm glad that they're looking at this currently and seeing what it is. But I think it'll be even more interesting to see the future studies of what this kind of technology does in the classroom when it's not such a paradigm, when it has become sort of passé, like, oh, we always use clickers in our classroom. Maybe then it wouldn't be so exciting to them. Maybe then it'll be boring. And possibly with the way the technology is advancing, we're never going to get to the point where students are bored, because we're constantly, saying, well, now the newest thing is this, and we really want our kids to know this new technology, so let's move forward, let's be progressive in our classrooms. So hopefully that's the way it is, but it would be interesting to see 20 years from now what kids think of clickers. Maybe it will be kind of like the dinosaur age to them, like they won't even know. And then the other thing about the study that kind of grabbed my attention that I thought was a little odd was that the participants were all from the same school in the Midwest. And I really kind of thought that studies were done more carefully, in that they would select kids from different schools, and that they would select kids from different towns, and it would be more across the U.S. But this was a small study, so maybe that's what they had access to, or maybe this is how studies typically start out. But in the future, I would like to see a more diversified study and see how kids all over are reacting to this technology. And that's all I've got for you. Thanks.